She demanded my seat in first class, but she had no idea who she was talking to. The humiliation went viral, but the real story was just beginning. The sharp, entitled voice sliced through the cheerful airplane hum, instantly grating on Mark Davis's nerves. "Excuse me, sir. You're in my seat. Move!" Mark slowly lowered his Sudoku, his gaze meeting the furious eyes of Brenda Jenkins, the self-appointed queen of Oakwood Estates HOA. Oh no, not here, not now. He was in first class, 1A, and boarding hadn't even finished, yet she was already causing a spectacle. With a subtle adjustment of his aviators, Mark kept his voice even. "Ma'am, I believe there's a misunderstanding." Brenda let out a disbelieving huff that turned heads. "Misunderstanding? I'm Platinum Ultra level. This is my window seat." Level, Mark thought, suppressing a chuckle. Was this a video game achievement she'd unlocked? Dressed in a loud velour tracksuit, practically vibrating with indignation, she looked ready to summon a manager. She turned to the flight attendant, a venomous smirk twisting her lips. "Get him out of here!" The flight attendant, a picture of professional calm, leaned in, her whisper barely audible. But Mark caught it. "That's the pilot." A hush fell over the cabin, so profound you could practically hear thoughts. Mark couldn't help it. A triumphant grin spread across his face. Brenda Jenkins's downfall had begun, hadn't it? Mark, a seasoned 45-year-old commercial pilot and Air Force veteran, had learned long ago that the best way to handle local drama was simply not to engage. Moving into Oakwood Estates, a gated community where residents actually debated the seasonal rotation of door wreaths like national security depended on it, had perhaps been a lapse in judgment. He'd bought the smallest house, kept his lawn meticulously trimmed, and, crucially, skipped the monthly porch aesthetic sync-up. This apparently was an unforgivable offense to Brenda, the HOA president and part-time neighborhood tyrant. To her, Mark was hostile and non-compliant. HOA speak for someone who didn't immediately prostrate himself when she showed up at his door at 7 a.m. on a Saturday to discuss mailbox uniformity. She'd been out to get him ever since. Then at the community pool, she'd overheard him mentioning his upcoming flight to Boston. A sinister spark must have ignited in her entitled mind. She'd actually redeemed her precious airline points to upgrade to first class on his flight, clearly intending to trap him at 30,000 feet to harangue him about community bylaws. Oh, if only she knew just who she was cornering. Her campaign against him had been escalating for days. First, a citation for visually apathetic, neutral-toned mulch. Apathetic mulch? Seriously? Then the ridiculous claim that his decorative mailbox, topped with a small spinning plane, was an unauthorized airfield signaling to other aircraft. And the absolute peak of absurdity? A 3-page document, complete with blurry photos, alleging his low flyovers were causing psychological distress to neighborhood squirrels. Could you believe it? But she wasn't done. Propaganda flyers, looking like they'd been designed by a conspiracy theorist, appeared in mailboxes. "Is your neighbor spying from the sky?" With clip art of drones and vaguely Cuban imagery. Mark, being half Puerto Rican, found the misidentification almost as offensive as the accusation. Through it all, Mark simply smiled, tuning her out like background engine noise. He'd faced ejector seat malfunctions and emergency landings. Brenda was just a minor distraction. But demanding his seat on his own commercial flight? That crossed a line. Her voice, shriller now, echoed through first class. "This man is a fraud. Identity theft. He's posing as airline personnel." Passengers stared, a bewildered mix of confusion and concern. Somewhere in coach, a baby started wailing, as if sensing the impending tempest. The flight crew, masters of de-escalation, calmly tried to guide her to her assigned seat. "Ma'am, we need to prepare for departure." But Brenda, oh no, Brenda wasn't listening. She whipped out a laminated HOA badge, which Mark strongly suspected she'd made at an office supply store, and waved it like an FBI credential. "I'm HOA. I have authority." That was it. Mark slowly rose, placed his coffee down, and met the flight attendant's eyes. "Do you want to handle this? Or should I?" A brilliant smile lit up the flight attendant's face. She grabbed the PA microphone, a glint of pure joy in her eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain Mark Davis, Your pilot for today's flight to Boston. Gasps, a phone clattered to the floor. Whispers erupted. Did she just... Oh my God. Someone's filming this, right? Brenda's face cycled through shades of confusion, disbelief, and then a fiery red Mark had only seen on fire engines. Her mouth opened and closed, a silent fish out of water. And then, as if on cue, his co-pilot emerged, holding Mark's captain's hat. With the solemnity of a coronation, he placed it on Mark's head, giving Brenda a small, pointed salute. The hat was on. The die was cast. Brenda Jenkins' reign of terror had just hit catastrophic turbulence. Her removal was swift, professional, and utterly satisfying. The airline staff, impeccably polite, couldn't quite hide the gleam of satisfaction in their eyes as they escorted her off. Brenda shrieked about conspiracies, seat-stealing cartels, and aviation privilege, whatever that was. As she passed his seat, she jabbed a trembling finger. This isn't over, Davis. The HOA will hear about this. Mark simply tipped his captain's hat. Have a pleasant day, ma'am. I hear you've been rebooked in row 31 middle seat. The truth Mark knew was even sweeter. Row 31, seat B, precisely between a raucous bachelorette party and a gentleman traveling with an emotional support chinchilla. Could it have been more perfect? Mark flew that plane with an unparalleled smoothness, fueled by 20 years of experience and the sweet, sweet taste of cosmic justice. He even managed to skirt most of the turbulence, though he might have, purely coincidentally, dipped into one small pocket just as they crossed Brenda's connecting flight path. By the time they landed, Brenda's mid-air meltdown was already viral. Someone had captured every glorious second, and Josh's HOA versus pilot was trending within hours. The internet adored it. Entitled behavior, instant karma, and a calm, uniformed hero amidst the chaos. Memes popped up instantly. Mark's favorite showed Brenda's horrified face with the caption, "When you realize the HOA badge doesn't work at 30,000 FT." Back at Oakwood Estates, Brenda desperately tried to salvage her reputation, calling an emergency HOA meeting. She actually invoked, "If you see something, say something," claiming her airplane confrontation was a patriotic duty. But while she scrambled, Mark was preparing his counterstrike. He hand-delivered notarized letters to every resident, simple, professional, and utterly devastating. They invited everyone to the first-ever HOA board re-election, BBQ, free brisket, all the fixings, and, the crucial detail, screenshots from the viral video attached. The turnout was unbelievable. People who hadn't shown up to an HOA meeting in years flocked for the free food and a front-row seat to Brenda's public undoing. Mark, grilling burgers in his aviators, watched as Brenda rambled at the podium, trying to spin her airplane antics as community outreach. When the vote came, it was brutal, unanimous. Brenda was out. Even her own husband abstained, which, let's be honest, was a vote against her. Then, as a joke, someone nominated Mark. But people actually started voting for him. Moments later, he was the new HOA president of Oakwood Estates, accepting the position in his BBQ apron, spatula in one hand, beer in the other. His first act? New policies effective immediately, no surveillance gnomes, all complaints via paper airplane, a nice aviation touch, and mulch neutrality, now protected speech. Brenda, ever the fighter, tried one last desperate move. She threatened to sue the HOA for wrongful termination, but the community lawyer, who'd been watching the whole spectacle with barely suppressed amusement, finally spoke up. Harassing a neighbor onto a plane and causing a flight delay that cost thousands? Oh, that was absolutely cause. More than cause. Potentially criminal. The airline had already banned Brenda for life and was considering suing her for $23,000 in delay costs. Brenda's face was a masterpiece. Pale, then green, then a grayish hue Mark had only seen on extremely airsick passengers. Her mouth opened, but no sound escaped. She deflated, sinking into her chair, finally understanding her reign of terror was over. The lawyer continued, explaining potential federal charges for interfering with a flight crew. Fines up to $250,000 and 20 years in prison. That did it. Brenda Jenkins actually fainted, right there in the community center, her useless laminated HOA badge clattering to the floor.